This podcast is brought to you by Ideate and Execute. Do you want to drive innovation in your organization, futurize your enterprise, ideate massively valuable new products, or execute them to market? Then contact us today at ideateandexecute.com and get started.
Why listen to the past when you can listen to the future? Welcome to the Think Future podcast, broadcasting from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. We focus on innovation, startups, and the future, not necessarily those and not necessarily in that order. Here's your host.
Let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your organization and what you're passionate about?
Yeah, my name's Don Marti, and I am VP of Ecosystem Innovation for CafeMedia. And
Love it.
The thing that I'm into is helping small and medium-sized web publishers adapt to the future of web advertising after the third-party cookie and with the growth of privacy technology and regulations.
So your audience or your customers are SMEs typically?
Yes. Well, CafeMedia is a company that provides ad services on 3,000 different independent websites. So if you're an SME or a major brand that is interested in reaching real people who have high engagement with niche content, then CafeMedia is a way to do that.
So are you sort of like an adjunct to something like Google AdWords or ads, or are you do you use them, or where do you fit in the chain?
We fit in the chain of helping the publisher maximize their advertising experience. And part of that is we enable brands and any advertiser really to reach the audience of all those niche sites that have all those real engaged people on them.
Okay, so if I were an SME and I wanted to reach those people who traverse those sites, then I would come to you directly. I wouldn't have to go through something else. I'd just call you up and say, hey, I need help talking to, I don't know, bulldog owners or something like that. And you'd be able to provide that service?
Absolutely. We can do that direct type of ad placement. But at the same time, we understand that a lot of advertising is placed in a very automated way through programmatic advertising. And so from the point of view of the independent web publisher, you need to be able to facilitate getting direct sold ads, and you also need to be able to work with those ads that are placed programmatically. So optimizing that for the publisher is a really big challenge, especially as browsers change their privacy features to limit the extent to which people can be tracked from one site to another.
Right. So that's a good question. So let's say I'm selling a product that talks to bulldog owners, right? I want to reach them. Would I do Google ads as well as you, or would you guys be the full stop shop? I could say, okay, I need to sell this dog toy. And I would just come to you guys and say, hey, I need to sell this dog toy. Tell me how to do it.
Well, we're not really in the business of telling you how to do it. We're not an ad agency. And so we're the ad service provider for the publishers, that if you were working with an agency, then we would be a significant part of that puzzle. So let's say you're the brand marketer and you say, I've got this product, this is the kind of people that I want to reach with it. Then your agency is going to say, well, there are different kinds of ads that you could be buying. You could be buying search ads. You can be buying ads on TV. You could be buying bus benches. And one of the best ways to reach people is on the niche content sites where they trust the web publisher to give them some good content. So how do you map that advertisers need to reach an audience with what kind of sites are available to run ads on? And that's a big question, and there are a whole lot of companies involved in it. And so the questions for that, there are a lot of questions for a brand marketer that's in that situation.
Right. So you're saying you're on the other side of the equation. You're the ones who are representing the little blogger. So the blogger who writes stuff about bulldogs and has an audience of bulldog owners. You'd be representing that blogger. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And small sites don't have the technical resources or the sales team to go out to every brand that might have an ad that is intended for their audience. And so in order to make it feasible for those small and medium-sized sites to get the highest value and most creative ads, then we can aggregate or we can make an ad placement that'll reach people on the right site.
Awesome. So when you say small, how small do you mean? I mean, what's your minimum number of visitors that you're looking for to get into your network?
It's definitely not a super small personal blog, but you don't have to be a company with multiple employees either. There are certainly a lot of individual content creators who can be who can run very successful sites with CafeMedia, and that's what's really exciting about the open web as an advertising medium, is that if you're an expert in a particular niche content area, you don't need to have a big team of distribution people or developers or ad ops or ad sales. You can really focus on making the content that best connects with your audience, and then use the available services to fill in the advertising side.
Okay, so let's say I am a blogger and I have a niche product, and or not a niche market, and I have a certain audience. Like, what's the smallest audience that you guys work with typically?
There's an exact number on the site. There's an AdThrive site that has the current number on it. I'll send you a link for the show notes, and just in case somebody's listening to this later, we'll put in a link with the numbers for where you would need to be a good candidate.
Sure. No, I'm just wondering, like, generally, is it like 500, 1,000, 50?
It's bigger than that. But it's
okay.
I don't want to quote the exact number as of today, because I don't know when people are going to be listening to podcasts and what the number is going to be in the near future. But a reasonably successful single person blog is definitely in the target size.
Okay. Well, I was just trying to think about, like, when would be the right time for somebody to start engaging with you, right? So I've got an audience, I've got a small audience. There's a certain point in time where I engage with you, and then you can sort of do those ad placements and sort of take a hand-holding approach to taking that person further along. Because is that basically how you operate?
Yeah. And there's a very detailed onboarding process where CafeMedia looks at the web design that's that's in place on the blogger's site, and looks for anything that might be an issue with getting the ad impressions through. Can actually log in and place the required JavaScript code on the site. So it's a really high support environment, and it really has to be, because a lot of content creators want to include really nice features on their sites, like responsive layouts or interactive features, and making all that that nice layout work productively with ads in place on the page is an interesting development problem. And of course, it can be sometimes frustrating for the user. There are people who will go to a site and they'll try to open it on a phone that's different from the devices that the site owner has tested it on, and the ad will pop up in just the wrong place to keep them from actually seeing the content. So that's a constant area where how a site works with the ads needs to be tested and debugged and optimized.
Well, hasn't the blogging world sort of settled now on WordPress? It's like they kind of use WordPress for sort of pretty much everything, even big, small, medium-sized sites. Everyone just uses the same thing, so it's relatively easy to sort of plug into that environment.
WordPress is by far the most common platform, and one of the positive aspects of having a common platform like that is that there are a lot of plugins and interesting features that you can bring into place. So as an individual content creator with an expertise in some field that is not web development, then you can get yourself set up with a productive WordPress environment pretty quickly.
So, I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about blogging is that it's a super, super crowded space, right? I mean, it's been around for 20 years now. And I keep hearing stories about people still being extremely successful blogging. And I don't know, I still don't know how they do it. I mean, do you have some stories of things like that that have occurred that you could talk about?
Oh, I think that the infrastructure and the business side for blogging can be a big differentiator. There are people who have developed possibly incorrect impressions about the viability of ad-supported blogs as a business model, based on having had bad experiences with setting up the ads in a particular way. And there are many options for how you can make a blogging business model work, and most of those options don't have a whole lot of really successful blogs using them. But of course, as you mentioned, there are many blogs out there. So for every business model, there's going to be some blog somewhere that's doing well with it. So it's really hard to generalize.
So based on your current customer set, is there like a set of criteria which the successful bloggers use to become successful bloggers, to be able to get into that range where they can continue to grow their site? I mean, what do they do? Is it like publishing on a regular basis, having a specific niche? Is there some criteria that makes some blogs more popular than others?
I think a lot of it has to do with the individual expertise of the person. So if you just go into blogging with a formula of how to have a successful blog, you may not stand out as much as someone who goes into it with a lot of knowledge about a particular area. And so there's this kind of disconnect between people who have the unique expertise that they could use to build an audience, and then the business decisions and partnership decisions that you have to make in order to support that that blog as a business. So CafeMedia is really there to handle all the advertising nerd stuff for people who have significant expertise and connect with a unique audience.
Right, because they don't need to know that part. They just need to know that sort of like the niche that they're in. And you were saying that the more specific the niche is, the better, because then you can actually get more targeted advertising.
Well, the placement of the ad on the content is or matching which ad goes onto which piece of content is the area that's going through a major set of changes right now. So historically, there's been this system based on third-party cookies where every time you go to a different website, your browser will share some little bit of information about you with some of the third-party services that have a script or a pixel on that site. So the classic example is the person who goes shopping for sneakers, and a third-party company happens to have a tracking pixel on the sneaker retail site. And then based on a cookie that's set there on the shopping site, then your browser will stick up its hand and say, hey, I see this person is ID number such and such, and you can show them the ads that are matched to the sneaker intenders. And so in the past, that's been a way that a lot of sites about whatever topic would be able to get higher paying ads, because some fraction of their audience comes in with a cookie saying, hey, show an ad to this person because they're a member of this group of people who are shopping for a thing. And the
right,
challenge,
so it's in the demographic based on that. So I see the cookie says this guy is looking for sneakers, so it's going to show a sneaker ad, even if the site itself has nothing to do with sneakers.
Right. And that's a former coworker of mine who's working on version control systems for enterprise software development happened to see a version control ad on a My Little Pony fan site. So there's nothing about the content of the site.
I've seen those kind of things, and it just seems so jarring, because you know you're being like, this is specifically targeted because you know this is something you're interested in, but it has nothing to do with the site.
Right. And of course, that leads to some of the problems that we've seen in today's ad targeting system, which is where low value or deceptive sites can sell high value ads. So the easiest dishonest way to make money on the web is get a Wall Street Journal subscription, scrape the paywalled articles, make your own version, and stick it up there. And there are a bunch of these scraper sites out there that are pulling in high value ads from legit brands. And because of the presence of scraper sites in the market, it tends to push down the value of advertising to all sites. So web ads are placed in an extremely fast moving auction. So your empty ad slots on a page when it first shows up, those are being auctioned off to see which ad campaign can pay the most to get an ad in front of you in that slot. And as long as we have low value scraper sites, fraud sites, brand unsafe sites, pirate sites, whatever, participating in those auctions, then the value of ads is pulled down by what those dishonest sites are willing to accept. So I think we're going to see a shift away from some of that unlimited ad targeting and toward an ad system where sites that get more engagement from their users are able to do better in the ad market.
So you're saying that let's see if I can get this straight. You're saying that the ads are not going to be coming. I mean, these sites, but aren't these sites sort of being punted to by Google because someone's just doing it? Obviously, they're using Google or Facebook to get to these sites because if you look at the incoming links, 90% or 80% is Google and Facebook. So are they driving? Aren't they driving people to these sites? Are they driving people to these scraper sites? And I'm assuming they're working to stop people from going to these scraper sites.
Oh, that's one of the most interesting questions in the economics of advertising, because if you look at it from the point of view of a big intermediary company like Google, their economic interest is in keeping the value of the content low. As long as they're able to get a valuable eyeball on a super cheap site, they're able to increase the fraction of ad revenue that they can pull in. So I think thinking back to the origin of Google, when Google first got going, the biggest search engine was Alta Vista. And Alta Vista
I remember those guys.
Yep. Alta Vista was running on these big deluxe digital Unix high-end machines. And digital originally started Alta Vista as a way to show off the power of their digital Unix platform. So Alta Vista, big, expensive digital Unix machines, relatively low profit for Alta Vista as a service. What Google came along with, when Google was still google.stanford.edu, they started building this thing on ordinary PC parts. So by the time they got Google up to the point of being a company, they didn't have a digital Unix server at all. What they had was a cheap rack full of janky PC motherboards piled up on shelves. They didn't even buy cases for them. So Google takes a low value input, as in whatever cheap PC parts you can get at Fry's, and builds a higher value output on top of that. So, of course, Fry's is no more. Today, Google is ordering processors in bulk from Intel and building their generic machines out of those instead of off-the-shelf motherboards.
Yeah, but at the base, it's still just a bunch of generic machines. Right. At the base level, it's still the same thing.
Right. The principle is the same, and their principle in dealing with content is very similar. So instead of having a few high trust web brands that advertisers are willing to pay a premium to get on because they know they have a trustworthy audience. The Google model is to try to shift as much ad revenue as possible to cheaper sites where you can get the users that you want at the lowest possible price. So that's where the tension comes in between the web publisher and the web advertising intermediary, because the publisher, all the value for the publisher is in access to a particular audience. The value for the intermediary is in leaking the publisher's audience so that the intermediary can get them in other places. And today, with third-party cookies, you've got this highly pro-intermediary advertising system where you're in a constant struggle with intermediaries to keep your audience data from leaking and making your ad impressions less valuable.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the subtext of what everyone is talking about with web privacy, and a lot of the discussions about what's going to come next after the third-party cookie are about privacy this and privacy that, but really it's everyone maneuvering for a better position to keep or increase their market power on that audience data.
Yeah, this might be a little controversial, but yeah, I found that Google ads or those kind of ads for these intermediaries don't work at all. At least from my perspective, I've tried them and nothing works. And I know a lot of people who have sort of given up on it because they want to use some other method. I mean, is there something? Are those ads effective for anybody other than the big brands who can spend a ton of money?
Well, the way that advertising actually works is by carrying an economic signal about the intent of an advertiser to engage with the market. And so why do all car commercials look the same? And every car commercial is somebody driving a car down a curvy, scenic mountain road, right? I could shoot that commercial in a 1977 Plymouth Ferrari. Any car will do this. And
they could just Photoshop the car in. Use the same commercial, just Photoshop the car in.
yeah. Get the Hot Wheels version of the car and do it on a toy layout. I don't know. It's not like advertising carries a lot of unique information generally. So if every car commercial is the same, then why do advertisers run them? And they're actually not all the same, but enough of them are the same that it makes it an interesting economic question. All right. So if all these commercials are the same, why does the car brand invest in the commercial? And the reason is they're saying this cost us money to do. So they're putting up a hard to fake message saying, if test driving this car was a waste of your time, then it would have been a waste of our money to rent a helicopter and make this 30-second movie about it and then pay for the TV time. So
that's interesting. So the fact that they've invested in all of this money to make the ad and show the ad shows that, hey, we've got some skin in the game here. You should do something about it.
Yes, exactly. And Rory Sutherland at Ogilvy has made this point fairly often. He says that he compares it to a horse owner betting on their own horse. So if you go to the track and you see that the owner is betting a bunch of money on their own horse, well, they know more about that horse than you do. A really good example is power tools. And of course, people who work a lot with power tools, people in the building trade, they are always talking and comparing their tools. So they get in an argument at lunch about Makita versus DeWalt or whatever. So there's a lot of
It's like the Windows versus Apple or Android versus iPhone arguments, right? They're like almost religious arguments, these things.
Right. And computer programmers do that with IT tools as well, but that's a whole nother field. The power tools one is interesting because if there's this whole community of practice that's really good at establishing a reputation for the product, then why is there slick advertising for Makita and DeWalt? And the answer is that those brands can take a position on what they believe the future reputation of that product to be. So if, let's say, DeWalt has mostly cordless drills, they come out with a new reciprocating saw. Everyone's got the Milwaukee reciprocating saw. They don't know if the DeWalt one's going to be any good. If DeWalt buys a 2-page spread in fine home building, then they're saying, we believe this product is going to do well in the reputation network. And if we're releasing a crappy product with big advertising, then we will have wasted a bunch of money. So
that is extremely interesting. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess that's how it works out. I mean, I never thought of advertising in that way, but is that what the owners would think, or is that just what the advertisers think? It's like, here we're investing in this brand because we believe in it, and that's why we're spending so much money running these ads.
Yeah, and that's the part about advertising that is extremely hard to capture in a web advertisement, because as an individual, if you see an ad on a page, you don't know, is this a big buy, or is somebody just targeting me because they know I'm the idiot who is not part of the community of practice and will buy the crappy product that ends up having a low reputation. So the math of online signal, or the math of signaling in advertising is way more complicated and way more interesting than direct response rates. But so far, web advertising has not really had the signaling story down yet.
Is it as I mean, I used to work with Yahoo like 10, 15 years ago, and they were always talking about how advertising, the rate of advertising being profitable is just continuously dropping because less and less people are looking at ads, clicking at ads, reading ads. Is advertising going to continue to be a viable model, or is it just, hey, we're getting our word out. This is a budget we've spent. We're showing that we've got skin in the game on the future of this product. Is it going to get more effective? Are there ways to make it more effective?
I think so, yes. And that's the most interesting part of the web advertising business group that's happening today at the World Wide Web Consortium. So with the end of the third-party cookie, we really have the opportunity for web advertising to go in one of two directions. One is it becomes, like the pessimists predict, it becomes crappier and crappier until everyone who can afford to turn off the ads just turns off the ads. The other
I'd say it's already there.
Yeah. The other option is that web advertising can recapture some of the best market design features of the kinds of ad media that have been sustainable in the past. So everyone sees ad rates on the web sort of decline over time, but in some media, the value of advertising is sustainable over time.
Which is there specific media where it's more sustainable?
Magazines were really interesting because even though it's an extremely high overhead and low targetability medium, the magazine ad was able to hold its value for quite a while. And I think that's because of a sweet spot of niche content and hard to fake signaling power in that particular medium.
But isn't that basically what sort of web advertising on these niche sites is basically this very similar to magazine advertising?
It can be. It can be. If we can get the system tuned to move smoothly over from today's kind of commodity eyeball market to one in which those niche content creators have a sustainable value for their audience, then we can recapture some of the good features of magazine advertising without, of course, having to accept the high overhead and high latency of the underlying technology. But it's something where, because it's all software, we have a tremendous number of options, and we have to consider very carefully where a particular software choice can result in different kinds of market opportunities.
So would it make sense for SMEs to sort of hold back and wait until this stuff is settled, or should they still just power forward and continue to run ads the way they've always been?
I think that right now there's sort of a gold rush going on for first party data. And so everyone is anticipating that knowing your audience, knowing your customer list is going to be increasingly important, because with improved privacy technology and changes in privacy regulation, you're not just going to be able to buy commodity eyeballs from a fast market. So from the point of view of an SME now, the best thing you can be doing is get people engaged, get consent, have an up-to-date mailing list of people who you know are human and who you know have given genuine consent and interest in communicating with you. And that could be as simple as the buy 9 sandwiches, get the 10th sandwich free card. It could be a content marketing portal where people can log in to make suggestions and read documentation and usage notes. It really comes down to participating in the community of practice that your customers do and facilitating that community of practice enough that they want to let you know who they are and get some kind of a communication with you. Yeah. And Of course, Bob Hoffman will say there is no brand love. People don't want to connect and share with brands. And that's absolutely right. I am not going to get on a message board every day and discuss Fruit of the Loom, even though I buy Fruit of the Loom products. But there are opportunities to understand who's a person who uses your stuff, what information do they want from you, and where are they willing to give consent.
So if I were to start a founder, but the thing is, if I were to start a founder and I don't have anything, I don't have an audience, I don't have anything. So the best way to do it is to just sort of like advertise like crazy and then gather as much first party data as possible and then build my list that way, as opposed to doing it any other way. That would be the way now and in the future.
Well, if you've made the leap to start up a new company, you've probably talked to some people who would be potential customers for that company. And so I know when as a startup founder, you go talk to people and say, here's this business I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? Are you the kind of person who buys this kind of thing? Those are the kind of proto customers who are the seed of the list and the people who you start with to build that customer list, and to understand what are the sites that customers and prospects actually read, and what are they engaged with, and where does it make sense for you to advertise. You shouldn't need to run a complicated machine learning model to find what websites your customers are on, because from the early stages, you would have been listening to them and reaching them where they are.
Right. Okay. So let's jump into the future now. It's 10 years, 2031. How has this market changed?
Well, the first big prediction that I want to go out on a limb for is that automated rating algorithms are no longer widely used as a way for people to shop for products. People have figured that the top rated product on a big retail site is probably from the vendor that's best at gaming the rating system and not the best at actually making the thing. So people will
the site remain nameless, right? You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I just know there are certain products like printer cartridges, for example, where I have to drive to the store and buy them, because you go online and check the ratings. The top rated ones are the people who are best at the rating system, not the people who are best at making a cartridge that fits a particular printer. And that even counts the listings that have the nice logo of the printer brand on it. You can't trust a damn thing. And that's the kind of problem that's only going to get worse, and it's going to create opportunities for two kinds of sources of product information. One is going to be customer communities that are run by brands that do have high engagement. King Arthur Flour is great at building up a customer community and advice network. The other source of info on what kind of thing should I buy will be more buyer's guides from independent content creators. So instead of just jumping to a large retail site to shop, you're probably going to visit an independently maintained buyer's guide that might be It might be on a .org site like Consumer Reports. It might be an individual blogger who says, this is my go-to list of household tools or my recommended video conferencing setup for all price points or that kind of thing. People are going to get better at using those independent sources of information on what's the best stuff to buy, and that's a big opportunity, frankly, for independent bloggers and content creators.
So would those be brand sites? So would HP set that up? Like you said, King Arthur Flour set that up, or would be like just some guy who's happens to be interested in printer cartridges could set up printercartridgesrs.com and then just do review after review, and then just have a community, a self-managed community of people who use these things as opposed to doing it through the retailer.
I think it's going to be a mix. I think that there are some brands for which it makes sense to invest in content marketing. There are some brands for which it makes more sense to not focus on your own content marketing, but to have a program of sending out review units for independent bloggers and review sites. There are going to be sites that have a mix. It really depends on. In a lot of cases, it can depend on the rise of a particular content personality. Somebody who comes out there and decides that I'm going to be the Walt Mossberg of home Zoom studios could end up shifting the whole market.
Very cool. So any other predictions for 2031?
I think that there's going to be, let me think about that for a minute. I think there's going to be a shift away from some of the riskier kinds of online advertising. I don't know if you've seen the Sleeping Giants project, or a blogger who went by Spocko a while ago, who collected clips of political radio shows to play back to those advertisers. I think that brands have developed brand safety criteria for a reason, and the web advertising system has unfortunately not kept up very well with the needs of brands to appear in an environment that's considered acceptable or safe for all their users. And so the question of how do you decide which is an appropriate site or context for a brand to appear on is not going to be resolved by machine learning, because the extreme or unsafe sites are going to be better at evading that kind of stuff than a lot of the more creative sites. I think brands are going to come up with better ways to, instead of starting from the concept of let's spew our ads on every social media page and every possible site, and then start playing whack-a-mole with the ones that start beheading people or whatever, that brands will start from, well, we know these are the sites that our employees read, that our customers come in from, so we'll start our ads there and then grow outward. So brands brand safety is not just a checklist item. I think it's a reputation building item and a potential big win for brands that do it right.
It's really interesting. It sounds as if that we need some kind of sort of heavy duty placement technology that can really use, I don't know, AI or whatever to be able to really determine, because a lot of times you get bloggers who are like, okay, this article is fine. And this article is out to lunch, right? And it's overall great, but then the guy has a bad day and then posts something that's unsafe. I mean, is there a market, or should there be a market for, or is this like an interesting startup idea? Like come in, like design some more exacting requirements for placement?
I would be really cautious of throwing AI at it from the beginning. That's the approach that Facebook has taken with trying to deal with the real mess that is Facebook pages. And it turns out that people who are determined to post heinous stuff online and are willing to burn through a bunch of accounts to do it can always beat AI coders who are investing in their Aeron shares at some big company. AI is not the solution to brand safety. So there's a reputation network inherent in the relationships between customer-facing employees and the customers. And so even if it's a local business, there's going to be some kind of local news site or local blogs or other forums where that trusted network of sites is available. And a company that has a press list has a list of sites that they trust enough to send their press releases to. So there's all kinds of trust network information already present in the business. That's a much more promising place to build on for brand safety than the approach of, well, let's see how smart we can be and code up a filter that we can run every site in the world through.
Right, but doesn't that sort of cut you off, because you've got this white list of sites that you're allowed on, but there could be other sites that are affected that are off the list, and you don't even know how to get to them.
Well, but any community of practice does this kind of stigmergic learning, where it's like an ant colony where people who are members of that community will go wandering away looking for other interesting things to connect to. So
like scouts. So you have scouts out there who are looking for other sites to whitelist. Got it.
Yeah. So a brand that's widely used by a community of practice is going to have a network of blogs where they're willing to advertise. They might not be running an ad there right now, but they know, this is a blog that's part of our community of practice, or this is a forum where one of our employees participates and we know it's a reasonable place. They may not post about work, but we know that that's a place where the kind of people who shop at our business and interact with our employees can be found. So the whitelist concept doesn't have to be a single monolithic whitelist that it's heavyweight to get onto. It can be a lightweight web of trust, and sites that are on the edge can have some kind of a score. The PageRank patent expired last year. You could do a startup that does a specific PageRank for how closely related to our company's field and our company's values this site is. That's actually a promising area to go down. If somebody's looking for a startup idea for placing ads, field specific / brand safe PageRank clones for where is good to put our ads.
That's a damn good idea. I didn't realize the PageRank patent had expired, so I might jump on that. So.
Yeah, go for
Thanks
it.
for letting me know.
I would totally use that. I would love to see a specific PageRank for fields that I'm interested in. That hey, these are all the sites that are closely aligned to my area and that are brand safe with my my company standards.
Very cool. I'm definitely going to talk to my developer about that. So thanks so much. This has been very fascinating. I love it. I mean, this insights into the ad market is just insane. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Twitter's always there. I'm D-Marty on Twitter. And you can always get me at dmarty@cafemedia.com too.
Perfect. I'll set up all the contact information in the show notes with your bio and everything else. And thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. Okay, bye.